A few weeks ago, I was on Twitter and I kept on seeing people complaining about electric scooters in Brussels. And I was a bit confused because I thought that electric scooters and other shared mobility in Brussels were quite popular because from the outside, it seems as if many people use them. So I thought that people were happy with these scooters. So I decided to do some research regarding this, and I actually found some Reddit groups of people who were not very happy with scooters. They had some complaints. Also on Twitter, I found a lot of people who were not happy. So I was even more curious. So I decided to do a deep dive, and I ended up actually writing a whole blog post about shared mobility in the city of Brussels. From the research that I found writing my blog post, I actually noticed that the city of Brussels has been working on drop-off zones since 2019. However, I do not think that they implemented these drop-off zones on a wider scale ever since then, but it shows that this is an issue that the city has really been working on. So all the credits to the city of Brussels for actively working on this shared mobility parking issue ever since 2019. However, I do have a small comment because even though the city has been actively searching for a solution with regards to dedicated parking spaces ever since 2019, they haven't really implemented any guidelines for parking spaces or provided any infrastructure for these operators. But in the meantime, they have been allowing more and more electric scooters to operate in the city. I think in 2022, there are around 20,000 shared scooters. So obviously, there is an issue that arises from this because there are a lot of electric scooters operating in the city. However, there isn't enough dedicated parking infrastructure for these scooters to safely park at. So it's normal that you might see scooters or e-bikes being parked at places that they are not allowed to park. And of course, this creates a negative image for the operators and for our industry, because when people see a wrongly parked scooter, they complain, of course. And obviously, this creates problems because it's normal that you will see scooters or e-bikes parked at places that they are not allowed to park. And when people see scooters and e-bikes parked wrongly, they will naturally start to have a negative image of the scooters and of the industry. However, as a shared mobility operator myself, I do think it's a bit unfair to put the blame only on the operators, because I know how much effort and time that goes into launching in a city. So I know that every single operator that is operating in Brussels only wants to do the best, only wants to have a positive impact, and they only want to provide a good service, and they definitely don't want to be in a negative light. They want to follow the rules, and I am sure that they do everything that they can to achieve this. However, they are limited in the possibilities, I believe, because there are so many scooters operating in Brussels compared to the available dedicated drop-off zones or parking infrastructure for shared mobility. So it's normal that you will have situations where some scooters will not be able to be parked at places that they are supposed to be parked at because there's just not enough space. So I think that is a bit unfairly sometimes when people criticize the operators. However, there's always a solution. I wanted to share the way we solved the wrongly parked e-bikes when we launched in Kortrijk. We used a very clever and a creative way to make sure that people always use one of the 480 dedicated bike racks in the city. It worked out very well. It was a simple change in our mobile application, but it worked very well. First of all, I want to congratulate the city of Brussels with the recent introduction of their drop-off zones. Again, on Twitter, I saw that there were some people with feedback and comments, and I also looked into it. And I also do have a few comments, and I will also share our solution. Recently, the city of Brussels introduced the drop-off zones for the shared mobility scooters. I saw again on Twitter that there were a lot of people discussing this, and they also had many comments and a strong opinion. However, I also have a few comments regarding this. One of my comments is these drop-off zones are painted in white. It's at the end of December, so it will start to snow, which might lead to people not actually seeing these drop-off zones because obviously the color, it will not be that visible under snow. And my second comment is that I actually think that the city of Brussels already has some roads, some parking infrastructure that they can already use right now. For example, the bike racks. I actually think that bike racks are a way better solution than painting something on the ground. The reason for that is because bike racks are something that people are familiar with. They are already being used by bikers. The city already has bike racks. And obviously they will not be blocking the road and pedestrians and so on, because one of the comments that I saw of the drop-off zones is that some of these drop-off zones were painted in pedestrian areas. So that's not good, of course. So I think bike racks are a way better solution. Before giving my own opinion about the shared mobility in the city of Brussels and giving our solution and feedback, I had to make sure that I had a good understanding of the whole city, even though I lived in Brussels for many years while I was studying, and I also helped launch Uber Eats in the city of Brussels. However, because of that, I know how complicated mobility is in Brussels. So I wanted to refresh my mind a little bit. So I did some web scraping. I put all the different restaurants, businesses, and other relevant things into a map, because the different communes or the different regions in Brussels can sometimes be so different from each other when it comes to, for example, the state of the road infrastructure. So as mentioned before, when we launched in the city of Kortrijk, we had some issues where people would just end their trip and just leave their e-bike in front of their door or in front of someone else's door or somewhere blocking the road. So as you can see, at the beginning, people could just put their end destination and we would just bring them to their end destination. However, obviously, many of those people did not make use of the dedicated parking spaces or the dedicated bike racks. So to change this and to make sure that people actually made use of the bike racks that were available, we made a very small but significant and also clever change, if I say so myself. So let's have a look. All right, so the change we made is, first of all, we put all the 480 dedicated bike racks into the map and inside the app, so that it's visible right away for the people. And another clever thing that we did is, now when someone puts in their end destination, in this case, someone wants to go to Kortrijk, we actually send them to the nearest dedicated parking space near Kortrijk. They need to end their ride at that parking space, and then we show them how to walk to their end destination, which is Kortrijk in this use case. So as you can see, we send them to the bike parking here near Kortrijk, and then that white circle, that is their end destination, that is Kortrijk. So then after they have parked their e-bike at the dedicated bike rack, we then show them the route to walk to their end destination. So when someone requests to go to their end destination, we first send them to the nearest dedicated parking space. They need to end the trip at this parking space, and then we show them where to walk to their end destination. And actually, before they arrive there, we show something inside the app. We show a short, it's like a pop-up, a visualization of how to park at this dedicated parking space or this bike rack. So it's also shown in the app. And here is another visualization of how we do it. So we send them to the bike parking, and then from there they need to go to these dots. And that's how we make sure that people actually use the dedicated parking spaces. And it has been working out for us. It's a small change, but it really helps. Here's another visualization. It's a small change, but it really helps. And it's something that can be done today, right away, by all operators. And I think having bike racks instead of having painted drop-off zones will definitely be a positive. So when people are approaching the end of the ride, which is at these bike racks, we again remind them inside the app, as you can see, that they need to respect the rules and need to park at these bike racks. And basically, that is where the trip ends, because that is where we send them. So we make sure that they park at these bike racks, that they end the trip, and then we show them how to walk to their end destination. And that is a small change, but a significant change that has been working out for us, and making sure that everybody respects the rules and that everybody basically parks their e-bike at the dedicated parking spaces provided by the city.